Hello, Spencer here. In today's video, I'm going to be giving a summary and analysis of the short story Araby. It is a short story from a collection of short stories called Dubliners, which is definitely a work that explores what it means to be Irish, as the title suggests. I really like the chronology of this literary work. As you go through the stories from beginning to end, the protagonist gets older. So in the first few short stories, the protagonist is really young, teenager or a kid. In the middle short stories, they're either a young adult or a middle-aged adult, and at the ending short stories, the last few short stories, the protagonist is an old person. In this way, this literary work explores what it's like to be at various ages in life. In Araby, the protagonist is a unnamed narrator who appears to be pubescent and experiencing for the first time feelings of romantic love. To me, this story is a story about one boy's loss of innocence. The story seems a little impersonal in one way. The two main characters are unnamed. We don't know the narrator's name, and the only person in the story of which we know the name is the narrator's friend, Megan. The story is told in the first person, so we get a very intimate view of the thoughts and feelings of the main protagonist. Across the street from where the narrator lives, his friend's sister lives. She's called Megan's sister. In the story, the narrator starts to develop strong feelings of romantic attraction. Megan's sister came out on the doorstep to call her brother into his tea. We watched her from our shadow peer up and down the street. We waited to see whether she would remain or go in, and if she remained, we left our shadow and walked up to Megan's steps recitedly. She was waiting for us, her figure defined by the light from the half-open door. Her brother always teased her before he obeyed, and I stood by the railings looking at her. Her dress swung as she moved her body, and the soft rope of her hair tossed from side to side. Every morning I lay out on the floor in the front parlor, watching her door. The blind was pulled down to within an inch of the sash so that I could not be seen. When she came out on the doorstep, my heart leaped. I ran to the hall, seized my books, and followed her. I kept her brown figure always in my eye, and when we came near the point at which our ways diverged, I quickened my pace and passed her. This happened morning after morning. I had never spoken to her except for a few casual words, yet her name was like a summons to all my foolish blood. We see that the boy is infatuated with her. He's experiencing a very strong sexual romantic desire to her. He is a youth and he is not used to these types of feelings. He is making his first steps out of boyhood, and he doesn't know how to handle these feelings because he's never had them before. He doesn't know how to talk to her, and he seems scared to try, which is why he, quote, I quickened my pace and passed her, unquote. His attractions go on. Her name sprang to my lips at moments in strange prayers and praises which I myself did not understand. My eyes were often full of tears. I could not tell why, and at times it fled from my heart, seemed to pour itself into my bosom. I thought little of the future. I did not know whether I would ever speak to her or not, or if I spoke to her, how I could tell her my confused adoration. But my body was like a harp, and her words and gestures were like fingers running upon the wires. We definitely see that he is afraid to approach her, and he doesn't know how to process his feelings. He says, quote, I did not know whether I would ever speak to her or not, or if I spoke to her, how I could tell her of my confused adoration. This is a natural response. A lot of us do not know what to do with our romantic and sexual desires when we first have them. We're pretty innocent at this part of life. The narrator has some strong emotion in him, and then one day the girl does speak to him. At last she spoke to me. When she addressed the first words to me, I was so comforted that I did not know what to answer. She asked me, was I going to Araby? I forgot whether I answered yes or no. It would be a splendid bazaar, she said. She would love to go. And why can't you? I asked. While she spoke, she turned a silver bracelet round and round her wrist. She could not go, she said, because there would be a retreat that week in her convent. Her brother and two other boys were fighting their caps, and I was alone at the railings. She held one of the spikes, bowing her head towards me. The light from the lamp opposite our door caught the white curve of her neck, lit up her hair that rested there, and falling, lit up the hand upon the railing. It fell over one side of her dress, and caught the white border of a petticoat just visible as she stood at ease. It's well for you, she said. If I go, I said, I will bring you something. What innumerable follies laid waste my waking and sleeping thoughts after that evening. I wished to annihilate the tedious intervening days. I chafed against the work of school, at night in my bedroom, and my day in the classroom. Her image came between me and the page I strove to read. The syllables of the word Araby recalled to me through the silence in which my soul luxuriated, and cast an Eastern enchantment over me. I asked to leave to go to the bazaar on Saturday night. Now he has a mission. The girl still does not know about his strong desires because they were not stated explicitly. But the boy wants to buy her something with the goal of winning over her affections. His desire to go win her over is so strong that most of what he thinks about and feels deeply about throughout his day is doing this one thing for her at Araby. At 9 o'clock, I heard my uncle's latchkey on the hall door. I heard him talking to himself and heard the hall stand rocking when it had received the weight of his overcoat. I could interpret these signs. When he was midway through dinner, I asked him to give me the money to go to the bazaar. He had forgotten. The people are in bed now, and after their first sleep now, he said. I did not smile, my aunt said to him energetically. Can't you give him the money and let him go? You've kept him late enough as it is. My uncle said he was very sorry he had forgotten. He said he believed in the old saying, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. He asked me when I was going, and when I had told him a second time, he asked me did I know the Arab's farewell to his steed. When I left the kitchen, he was about to recite the opening lines of the piece to my aunt. It is clear that he's waiting in anticipation for going to Araby. He probably is pretty frustrated at his uncle for delaying him going to Araby, and now he has to go when it's late at night. The first thing that he does, right when he can, is he takes off and goes straight to Araby. That's what he's been planning for a very long time. This is an important thing to him. And once he gets there, there's a store. And at the store, there is a group of people. There's a young woman who's running the store, and then there's two young men who are near her who are flirting with her. Remembering with difficulty why I had come, I went over to one of the stalls and examined porcelain vases and flowered tea sets. At the door of the stall, a young lady was talking and laughing with two young gentlemen. I remarked their English accents and listened vaguely to their conversation. Oh, I never said such a thing. Oh, but you did. Oh, but I didn't. Didn't she say that? Yes, I heard her. Oh, there's a fib. Observing me, the young lady came over and asked me did I wish to buy anything. The tone of her voice was not encouraging. She seemed to have spoken to me out of a sense of duty. I looked humbly at the great jars that stood like an Eastern guards at either side of the dark entrance to the stall and murmured, no thank you. The young lady changed the position of one of the vases and went back to the two young men. They began to talk of the same subject. Once or twice the young lady glanced at me over her shoulder. I lingered before her stall, though I knew my stay was useless. To make my interest in her wares seem the more real. Then I turned away slowly and walked down the middle of the bazaar. I allowed the 2 pennies to fall against the 6pence in my pocket. I heard a voice call from one end of the gallery that the light was out. The upper part of the hall was now completely dark. Gazing up into the darkness, I saw myself as a creature driven and derided by vanity, and my eyes burned with anguish and anger. That is a very brutal ending to a story. The boy who felt that his love was pure and great discovered that his feelings were not that special. They weren't any more special than the young men in that store who were flirting with that young man. Many people have had the same feelings that this boy has had. I think everybody at one point has experienced romantic attraction, sexual attraction for the first time, and they don't know how to deal with it when it first comes. And when it's there for the first time, it's really, really special. It's special because you can't really put it into perspective. You really don't understand that what you're feeling for that first love isn't really unique. There's a lot of people who have had that feeling. And I think that the narrator in the story realizes that at the end, and it hurts him because he's losing his innocence in this. And once that initial experience of first love has taken place and is now gone, you don't really ever get it back. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this short story. If you have any ideas on it or like to comment on it, don't hesitate to leave comments on the section below. Bye for now.